Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 401 to 420. Chapter 401 Epic Gear. Captain, I didn't expect you to be serious. The doctor, who came back immediately after receiving Vlad's contact, Trafalgar Law, had VV's sweat on his face, and he looked a little unbelievable. He asked. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Of course. Vlad was very excited. His eyes seemed to be shining, but the expression on his face did not seem to be very pleasant, and sweat kept dripping from his forehead. Isn't this a cool idea? Quote. Do you think so? Luo was a little powerless. Of course, he knew that his captain was definitely not a man who could easily change his mind. It was really difficult to shake his will. You are the captain, you have the final say. I also think this is a really good idea. There was some sarcasm in his tone, and the man named Tessero said, ha ha ha, Vlad, what a fantastic idea you have. Isn't this a great idea? Ha, Tessero, give me the yin and yang while you're at it. Judge, who were starting the second test without looking back, frowning tightly, as if he was enduring some great pain, he said, I'll let you know later. You are astonished. I'll wait and see. Tessero smiled, but he seemed very interested. After all, although I had heard of such a thing, it was the first time I had seen it. Don't be so scared later. Vlad's expression of being the best in the world can be said to be remarkable. Kara. With such a light sound, Paso turned on the machine in front of him again, and took out a strange-looking thing from it. It was white and not big. It looked like a... It's done, Captain. Paso said so, and threw the things in his hand to Vlad. Hey, Paso, you bastard, what are you doing? Vlad stretched out his left hand and hurriedly caught what Paso threw, and said angrily, what did you do to Lao Su's bones? Don't throw it away. What Paso threw, this white thing, was nothing else, but a genuine bone dug from Vlad's body, which can be said to be very whimsical. Vlad thinks so. The dark fruit is really precious, but you can't eat it directly. You can only make it into equipment, but there is a downside to making it into equipment. That is, what if the equipment is dropped? Manage. In order to prevent the equipment from falling, Vlad opened a brain hole and simply made this equipment into equipment bound to him. For example, his own hand bones. How about digging a piece out of your own hand bone to add power? The dark fruit hand bone is simply an epic piece of equipment. That's a really good no-no note. Vlad felt that he was simply not witty, to be able to come up with such a good idea. What a genius. The only flaw is that it really hurts. Although Luo's ability was used to cut open the palm, the bones were actually dug out, because, if Luo's ability was used to cut out, then the bones and the body were actually still connected. Yes, Vlad was a little scared. Come on, Luo. Vlad smiled. Time to work. So, will I just let you go straight back? Luo said, Master Captain. Of course not. Vlad said, of course not. What? Luo looked a little surprised. Of course you can't come directly like this. Vlad smiled. What if this hand bone with additional abilities is implanted into the body, it will also cause a conflict with the devil fruit. Although in essence this hand bone and I are two completely separate individuals. But also have to guard against it. Vlad has always been a person who doesn't like to gamble very much. Unless it is a last resort, he is never willing to pin his future on illusory luck. So. Luo suddenly turned his head and looked at the mechanical wolf nesting in the corner. I understand. Hee hee. Vlad nodded with a smile. Just understand. Woo. He looked a little surprised. The big dog, who often needed to enter this laboratory because he needed to cooperate with Paso's research before, also came to this place where he would eat a lot of bones as usual, and then, for some reason, suddenly with a jolt, he raised his head and looked at the two men walking towards him with wicked smiles on their faces. Ow. Hey, hold it, doctor, hold it down. Dash 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 dash. You. Like a little daughter-in-law who was insulted, the big dog named Xiaobai shrank helplessly in the corner, grinning at the few people who were standing in front of it and commenting. "It doesn't look dangerous." Vlad subconsciously pinched his chin with his right hand, and then immediately shrank back because of the pain. "It seems so." Luo nodded. "So, the dog now has two abilities." Tessero looked curious. "We did a miracle." Judge looked excited, the only dog in the world with dual abilities. "Neat." Paso was a little stunned. "Is it because of this? The robot itself has the dog fruit, but the captain's bone has the dark fruit, although it does have two abilities in the same body, but in fact they are two independent individuals, because of this, so their abilities do not conflict." "So, that means there's no problem, right?" Vlad grinned widely. "Then why hesitate? Come on, doctor, I can't wait." "Double fruit ability, just thinking about it will make you feel cool." "Understood." Luo nodded. He was also a little excited. Such a feat can be regarded as the world's first, right? "You." Standing up suddenly, the big dog bared its teeth and grinned in horror, but it was powerless, and these guys in front of it were not something it could resist. "Ouch." With a tragic cry, the transplant operation officially began. This operation is really difficult for ordinary doctors, but for Luo, it is not easy. The most basic application of the fruits of surgery, it's really nothing. "Call." Luo gently wiped the sweat on his forehead, let out a long sigh of relief, and put a smile on his face. "It's done." "Awesome." Vlad moved his right hand, and it didn't seem to be different from before, but he could clearly feel the difference. Chapter 402 Darkness plus Fire Dragon equals. "How do you feel?" Paso asked eagerly. This man can only show such eagerness when it comes to scientific research, so although Vlad is a little flattered by the feeling of being valued by him occasionally, but then think about it, such a special, and do scientists see any substantial difference in their mice? Feeling. Vlad smiled, a wanton smile hung on the corner of his mouth. "It's not bad." "Let me try it." Vlad smiled, with a somewhat constrictive look. "Let Mr. Tessero, who was sneering at me just now, give it a try. I have a brand new power." "Haha, I never knew, Vlad, you are such a careful guy." Tessero pouted and sneered. "Now you know it." Vlad stretched out his right hand towards Tessero, opened his palm, faced Tessero, and said with a smile, "Come and try this power. It should be called Dark Water." As soon as the voice fell, a strange change appeared in an instant, and black gas came out from the center of Vlad's palm. It was very rich, and it was so thick that it was more like black liquid than black mist. In the blink of an eye, the black gas had completely wrapped Vlad's right hand. Then, Tessero sensed something was wrong with his instinct. Scoff. Tessero's originally casual body slammed towards Vlad, and a look of surprise appeared on his face instantly. What is this seemingly incomparable force? Tessero's body sank sharply, and his feet were firmly on the ground, resisting this strong suction. Hey! Compared to Tessero's diligence, Vlad seemed to have a lot of leeway, and smiled hilariously. "How is it? Wasn't Tessero still very arrogant just now?" "Cut." Tessero scolded a little unhappily. "What the hell is this? What is this? Isn't this the power I just got?" Vlad smiled and tried hard. "What do you think?" "Ah." Whoosh. Tessero looked very surprised. The suction from Vlad instantly expanded and sucked him directly. Crack. Vlad's right hand rested lightly on Tessero's shoulder, and Vlad asked, "How does it feel?" "Feel?" Tessero shook his body and said in surprise, "The suction has disappeared." "Did you stop using your abilities?" "No." Vlad said, "I use it all the time." "Then this is..." Tessero is a little confused. "What's the use of this ability?" "Just simply pulling people over." "Hey, isn't it? Didn't you notice? Vlad is very a bit hated that iron is not steel. Isn't the real effect of this ability still not aware of it?" "What?" Tessero frowned. "Then. What?" The man's eyes widened in surprise. He stretched out his right hand. "This This is. Tessero looked extremely surprised. Of course, he stretched out his right hand not because it was itchy, but because he wanted to use his ability, but nothing happened, which was surprising. Vlad, what have you done? Could it be that this fruit can? Wow, haha, yes. Vlad let go of Tessero, the black air above his right hand dissipated, and then his right fist clenched tightly. He said with a smile, Dark fruit is the nemesis of all devil fruit power users. He has the ability to eliminate power. Crack. Tessero snapped his fingers gently, and the gold ring on his hand flowed like flowing water. Ability restored. Tessero asked, does only contact work? That's right. Vlad nodded. The gravitational force of the black hole can absorb everything, especially the devil fruit power user, or, in other words, the power itself. After the power user touches my right hand, their power will be suppressed, not like its seastone that makes the able-bodied powerless, but to completely incapacitate the capable person. Of course, it does not affect the capable person himself. The ability of the dark fruit and the seastone is here. For example, even if the straw hat Luffy touches the seastone, even if it is soaked in the sea, although the person will lose strength, what will not change is that his body is still rubber. It can still be stretched and expanded under the action of external force, but after encountering the dark fruit, although he will not be weak, he will completely lose the characteristics of this rubber, which is the ability of the dark fruit. It is because of this that after Vlad's right hand touched Tessero, this guy could no longer feel the suction. The attraction of dark water is only for those who are capable. After touching Tessero, this guy has already it's not a capable person, and of course it can't feel the suction. What a terrifying ability. Tessero had a look of admiration in his eyes. Vlad, you have really gained incredible power. It's not bad that it's powerful. Vlad shook his head with a look of hopelessness on his face, but, the trouble is, this is not what I want. What? Tessero frowned, are you still good at getting cheap? It's not. Vlad shook his head. Anyone who is touched by the dark fruit's ability will be temporarily incapacitated, which is really good, but the problem is. This setting is also valid for me. What? Tessero's eyes widened in surprise. Because I and the hand bone with the dark fruit are essentially two individuals, I can only use the hand bone to drive the dark power, so the judgment of dark water is also effective for me. Vlad spread his hands and looked weak. I didn't expect this before. This is indeed something Vlad didn't think of before. The dark fruit that is not entirely his own will certainly not be as easy to use as Blackbeard's. The two fruits do not interfere with each other. When Vlad uses his right hand when the power of the fire dragon is completely suppressed, it is completely unusable. Of course, when the dark power is not driven, the fire dragon ability can still be used normally. From this point of view, it is not a big deal. After all, Vlad did not intend to use the dark fruit as his main force. Just kidding, although this fruit is very powerful, but in terms of purely destructive power and lethality, Vlad's dragon fruit doesn't know where it is higher than it. Otherwise, why does Blackbeard still seek the shock fruit? It is because the lethality of the dark fruit itself is not too strong. Although it is impossible to become a dual fruit ability user in the true sense, there is actually no difference. Vlad is still very satisfied. After all, the dark fruit is indeed obtained. Its most important ability is that it does not need to be with the fire dragon. Force is used simultaneously. Well. Vlad squeezed his chin. I always feel a little unwilling, so. Also choose an ability for the left hand. Chapter 403 Ant. In the end, the matter of choosing an ability for the left hand has not yet been implemented. Although this is a very tempting thing, Vlad is not a person who can put any ability into his body. He is tempted, at least it must be a fire dragon fruit, a dark fruit, a devil fruit that either has full destructive power or has a strong strategic significance, otherwise, who would be interested? Vlad has always been a very picky person. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Ahahaha. Vlad clenched his right fist and laughed. I'm invincible. It's really swell. Tessero on the side twitched the corners of his mouth with a mocking expression. Does such an incomplete ability make you so proud? Hee hee. Vlad smiled. You don't understand. Tessero, I'm not talking about my own combat power. You don't understand. What is the most powerful ability of this dark fruit? There are hidden abilities. Tessero looks very interested. After all, the ability to restrain all abilities is already very scary, and even more powerful abilities are hidden, which is of interest to everyone. Will you show me a demonstration? This can't be done. Vlad spread his hands. It's not that I'm stingy, Tessero. To use this ability requires certain conditions. For example, when you are about to die, I can show it to you once. Huh. Isho, who was mocked by the domineering President Tessero, was not pestering either. Well, the biggest goal has been achieved recently. Vlad clapped his hands and laughed. It's time to relax. It's hard work. Vlad turned his head and said to Paso, who was standing there in a daze, Paso, I've really troubled you recently. It's rare to come to Tessero's place once, so why don't you go and have a good time? Quote. Paso was dumbfounded and didn't know what to think. Crack. Vlad slapped his forehead with a look of weakness. Forget it, it's my fault again. Doctor. Captain. Luo replied softly. He was still in the midst of surprise at the terrifying power that Vlad showed before. Take this guy, Paso. Vlad said, I don't expect this guy to be able to walk out of the lab by himself. Take him out and have a good time. Although he is a scientist, he should relax once in a while. Mr. Judge, come with you too. Bring yours. No, my science unit. Quote. Crack. Judge gritted his teeth. So do I need to thank you? Of course not. Isn't Tessero the one to thank? Vlad patted Tessero's shoulder and said with a wink, as a big landlord, he has covered all our consumption this time. I never remember I said that. Tessero slapped Vlad's hand away and said coldly. Hey, don't be so stingy. Lord Tessero. Vlad smiled, as the richest man in the world so stingy. Give. Vlad threw a ring to Tessero, which was the ring with the bright fruit attached before. This is for you. Oh. Tessero Isho lightly, catches the ring, and smiles. Is this okay? Well, it doesn't matter. Vlad spread his hands. It was originally the devil fruit you provided. Besides, it's useless for me to hold this ability. Just take it as a mortgage for you to entertain. You really know how to do business. Tessero said so. Of course, the devil fruit is provided by him. The golden ring is also directly picked from his hand. Vlad only provides technology, and yes, technology is the most important. Of course. Vlad smiled. Okay, everyone, at least enjoy a wonderful night today. Haha, Fire Dragon Pirates, it's time to rest now. It's not for nothing that Tessero would be proud of the Grand Tessero. The boat is really good. It's just a boat, but no city in the world can compare to it. Purely for entertainment, all the entertainment that will make people feel pleasant in the world will not be lacking here. There is the most prosperous gaming industry in the world, and countless people are rushing for it. Every day there will be people who get rich overnight. Of course, there will also be unlucky people who have lost everything and fall to the bottom of the city. The bloody arena is also the same. It is also a project favored by many people. The desperate fight between life and death is indeed a matter of accelerating the secretion of adrenaline. Afterwards, after the excitement, many people will choose to relax, and the custom street is of course very good. A choice, although it is not as good as the most professional happy street, but the customs industry in this city is also very good, and Vlad has visited it in the past. Of course, since there are these entertainment methods that best show human-animal nature, there will of course be more elegant places, and the theater where Vlad is now is one of them. Tessero Theater, built in the most central part of Gurinsalo, can be said to be one of the largest and most well-known theaters in the world. Guild Tessero, the world-renowned artist and the owner of the city, often performs here. Vlad was sitting in the auditorium of the theater, watching the songs and dances on the stage with a leisurely expression. Although they were all completely unknown little stars, they looked really good. The world seemed to have some strange perceptions of women as a group. Knowing that there are very few women who are not good-looking, and there are all kinds of freaks among men. However, what is full of malice is that women will lose their glory when they get older, but the old men are still majestic. Hey, just let you see. Vlad said proudly, Tesoro, what is the top musician in the world like? How proud, Vlad. Tesoro, who was sitting next to Vlad with his arms crossed his chest, twitched the corners of his mouth, looking a little unhappy, but, this is indeed something to be proud of. I really don't understand why that Miss Serena would come to you. On the boat. As the ruler of the world's most famous entertainment city, this man certainly knew about this woman named Herrick Serena. You know, when Vlad met the musician, her father's one Herrickser Vlad asked Tesoro to investigate. Ahaha. Vlad laughed, it's a charisma. Huh. Tesoro was a little jealous. Era, isn't that, little Vlad? Suddenly, a very sweet voice rang in Vlad's ear. Vlad turned his head, looking very surprised. Aunt Stussy. Chapter 404 Acquaintance. Vlad turned his head, and what caught his eye was a woman, a very beautiful woman, with short blonde hair very curly, wearing a somewhat out-of-place hat, embellished with flowers, a small waistcoat and a dress underneath. With her bumpy body and a small bag in her hand, she is really a very beautiful woman. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Aunt Stussy. Vlad's voice was very surprised. Of course he knew this woman, and there was no reason to not know her. Even if he didn't know much about her in his previous life, he was quite familiar with her in this life. To be honest, this woman is really the most beautiful woman he has ever seen in his 2 lifetimes. Vlad has yet to see a woman who can be compared to her in terms of beauty, perhaps the pirate queen who is known as the world's most beautiful woman and a woman under the sea. The mermaid princess of Fishman Island can compete with her, but unfortunately, Vlad has not seen them. This woman named Stussy is indeed the most beautiful woman he has ever seen, even on his boat. Miss Maid and Miss Musician are no match. It's really Vlad's. Such a pleasant surprise. The beautiful woman hugged Vlad's head directly, and Vlad suddenly felt that his head was immersed in too indescribable and oppressive softness. I thought I was wrong. The woman hugged Vlad's head very happily and kept dawdling. Vlad almost couldn't hold it back. Was this woman really the person he should be called auntie based on her age? What are you doing? Isn't this body more tempting than a young girl? What's the matter with this woman? But it's been said many times, little Vlad. Stussy let go of Vlad, stretched out his right hand, raised his index finger and shook it, and blinked his right eye playfully, looking like a lively girl. You can't call me auntie, you have to call me sister. Oh. Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth and replied unceremoniously, if you really want me to be called sister, you must at least be 30 years younger. Really, my sister is angry. Stussy looked very unhappy. My sister is only 18 years old this year. Indeed, as far as looks are concerned, there is nothing wrong with saying that she is 18 years old, and almost no one will doubt this, but the fact is, this woman is indeed the age where Vlad should be called auntie. She seems to be contrary to the setting of this world. There is absolutely no aging of women of the same age. Oh, so 18-year-old girls still call me little Vlad. Vlad stared at the dead fish. Because. Stussy held his face, looking a little embarrassed, exuding a beauty that made people's heart pounding. I'm good friends with Linlin, so, of course, little Vlad is my junior. Oh, then let's get rid of it. Vlad waved his hand. Aunt Stussy, forget it, Stussy, don't tell me you don't know anything about Charlotte Linlin and I. In this case, your so-called relationship doesn't exist anymore. Little Vlad isn't as cute as he was when he was a kid. Stussy looked a little sad, and didn't care that his own words had revealed his age. When I was a child, I always jumped on my sister's body. It's really cute, but now that I'm older, I don't look like that time at all. Quote. Cough. Vlad blushed. This is one of the few black histories for him. As a writer who was a dead house writer in his previous life, there was really no way to resist the temptation of a beautiful big sister like Stussy, at least from the outside. She looks like a beautiful big sister. Era, how funny, little Vlad. The woman sat beside Vlad unceremoniously, hugging Vlad's arm very kindly. That cute little Vlad has grown into an amazing man when I was a child. A flash of nostalgia flashed in Vlad's eyes. Although he was always a little scared because of Charlotte Linlin's existence in the Charlotte family, he still got along very happily with his brothers and sisters. Among them, he also got along with the woman Stussy. It's harmonious. These fond memories are Vlad's own treasure. However, Vlad would not open his heart to a woman just because of the pleasant relationship in the past, joking, not to mention that she is a customs giant in the new world. Vlad is the first time he sees the world as to follow her, which is more important. The thing is, this woman is a government spy, one of the few members of CP0 whose identity has been exposed in the original work, and Vlad is still not tired of living. Don't say anything unnecessary, Stussy. Vlad rudely said. The Big Mom pirates are already my enemy. Shouldn't you, as Charlotte Linlin's good friend, stay away from me? Say what, little Vlad? Stussy replied, I'm good friends with Linlin, but I'm also good friends with you. I really think of you as a younger brother, little Vlad. Huh. Vlad's mouth twitched. Miss Stussy. Tessero on the side couldn't hold back. The two of them chatted for a long time and didn't notice him at all, which was a little uncomfortable for Tessero, who has always been a world-renowned star. Era, is that Mr. Tessero? Stussy looked surprised. Mr. Tessero, do you know little Vlad? It's a partner. Vlad looked very impatient. He had to do what he should do. In short, he didn't know about Stussy's spy status and his attitude towards this woman who had a good relationship with him and Charlotte Linlin. While properly revealing some information to her, but also covering up more important information, this is really difficult for Vlad, who is not very smart. Huh, are you a partner with Mr. Tessero? Stussy covered her mouth in surprise, and just the right amount of consternation was released from her eyes. It was the most standard expression of surprise. Because of preconceived reasons, Vlad felt that this woman was a real woman no matter what expression she saw. Put on a show. That's right, little Vlad is already a member of that King Shichibukai, a man who can shake the sea. Stussy said, what kind of cooperation is it? Can I bring my sister with me? Oh, you'd better do the promising job of your prostitute honestly. Vlad Pai is smiling. It's disgusting. Stussy had an aggrieved expression on the verge of crying. Little Vlad really can't speak, and my sister is forced to be helpless. Ha ha. Vlad smiled perfunctorily. Crack. This is, on the stage, the lights come on suddenly. Ah. Some surprised voices came from all directions. On the stage, the beautiful red-haired woman bowed gently to the audience and sat in front of a piano. Listen to it. Vlad smiled, very proud. Tessero, and Stussy. The music of my proudest buddy. Chapter 405 Killing Intent. Ding. The slender fingers of plain white pressed gently on the piano keys, and the wonderful notes flowed out like a stream in an instant. X23 US. Com updates fastest. This is. Tessero's eyes widened. I see. Miss Stussy wiped her eyes in disbelief. Is it the Sea of Clouds? Oh. Vlad nodded knowingly. It's this song. It was said to be perfect at that time, but it was only at this time that I officially heard it for the second time. It's a very wonderful experience. There is a word called co-sensation, which can affect the feelings of other senses through the stimulation of one sense. For example, when you see red, you will feel warm subconsciously. That's the reason, and now, even without using the ability of the resonance fruit, and simply relying on her own technology, Serena has also achieved such a thing. All the listeners who listened to this piano song deeply felt what this kind of strange feeling looks like. The Sea of Clouds, in a trance, a white sea of clouds appeared in front of Vlad's eyes. The clouds were like waves flowing gently under the breeze, and a fresh air that only belongs to nature came from somewhere. Come. Vlad turned his head subconsciously and found himself standing on a small boat, sliding slowly on the sea of clouds. The boat gently rode across the sea, and layers of strange ripples rippled across the cloud-like sea. In the distance, a big fish fluttered up from below the sea surface, with a little white cloud on the tail part. Oh! Vlad was very surprised. The big fish changed suddenly in the air, starting from the position of the head. The beautiful long blue hair like the sea was spread out, the body was suddenly elongated, the parts covered by the fish scales moved down quickly, and the fair skin was exposed. In the blink of an eye, she had transformed into a beautiful mermaid, stretching her body freely on the sunny sky. Hey! Vlad's eyes widened. This is a very beautiful scene, the clearest blue sky, VV's rippling white cloud sea, the beautiful mermaid is shimmering. Vlad suddenly felt relaxed and happy. The beautiful scenery is the most wonderful encounter for human beings. There must be something like this that all adventurers in the world yearn for. Then, the mermaid slowly turned its head towards Vlad. Amount. Vlad's eyes widened suddenly. Why is it you? Whoa. The warm applause instantly made Vlad come back to his senses. Poisonous, Stussy, this woman is poisonous. Call. Vlad stood up abruptly, with a little sweat on his head, which was already amazing for Vlad. Even when Kaido of the Beast suddenly appeared in front of him, he was not too much panic, but now it's just a picture that actually makes this man sweat a little. This is not easy. It can be seen that an old woman in the hallucination has a great impact on him. Whoa. Then all Vlad heard was the overwhelming applause. Almost all the audience stood up. The applause resounded through the sky. Everyone was shocked by Serena's wonderful music, although everyone's tastes were different the same, but the simple perception of beauty is shared by all people. Thank you for your applause. The name of this song is, The Sea of the Sky. Then, Vlad heard the voice of his own musician lady, full of energy and triumph, and he could basically confirm that he was a strong personality. And then, next, it's up to me, Herrick Serena, the best musician on the sea, to bring you an equally beautiful song. It is very shameless, although it is indeed the top musician in the sea, but it is too shameless to say so. The name is, Shanghai. Amount. A subtle look crossed Vlad's face. Okay, go ahead and enjoy this musical feast, Stussy. Vlad grabbed it and was very excited. Tessero, who had been completely attracted by Serena's music, said, Mr. Tessero and I still have business to discuss. Let's say goodbye first. Huh? Tessero looked surprised. Stop it. It's enough to make a good impression on yourself, don't spoil it. Vlad said so, grabbed Tessero and walked outside the theater, not paying any attention to Stussy at all. Huh? Vlad Jr. Quote. Stussy is a little confused. After listening to such wonderful music, is he going to leave immediately? Doesn't this outstanding musician still have time for a song? Goodbye, Aunt Stussy. Vlad finally waved his hand and pulled Tessero out of the theater. This guy. Stussy's surprised expression snapped away, replaced by a dignified look. Dang dang dang. The music played. Well, let's think about it later. Dash 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 dash. What's the matter, Vlad? Somewhat confused, followed Vlad out of the theater, Tessero finally asked. What's the matter? What a good question. Vlad said, that woman Stussy is not easy. What? Tessero frowned. I was asking, why didn't you finish that song by Miss Serena? Huh? Vlad raised his eyebrows in disbelief. A look of admiration hung on Tessero's face. Although I knew for a long time that Miss Serena was the top musician in the world, I didn't expect her piano voice to be so beautiful. Good luck, Vlad. Tessero looked very jealous. You actually let Miss Serena on your boat. Isn't that the point? Vlad raised his forehead, and you should thank me for saving your good impression. What? Tessero was surprised. Speaking of which, I am too busy. Vlad said suddenly, think about it, it's interesting to see your disillusioned expression. So, Tesoro said solemnly, is there anything you should be afraid of in Stussy? The topic has changed so quickly. Vlad pouted, but, it's not just me who should be afraid of her, you too. What? Tesoro doesn't understand a bit. As far as the industry is concerned, although Stussy's business is doing a lot, it is not comparable to him. After all. Vlad grinned and said softly, she, SCP-0. Quote. An astonishing murderous look flashed in Tesoro's eyes. On the other hand, Miss Serena's solo singing will soon end, and this concert will follow her singing. Although it is not yet time, although there are still many band musicians who are not on stage, the audience after more than half of the tour, there is of course no need for the concert to go on. Following the crowd, Stussy walked out of the theater with an unsightly face. Damn. The beautiful woman cursed in a low voice. Vlad, that bad boy, did he run away early because he knew about such a thing? However, his relationship with Tesoro. Chapter 406 CP0 in action. So, is there actually a very close relationship between that guy Fire Dragon and Emperor Going? Named Stussy is standing leisurely in a small alley, holding a small phone bug in her hand. She has a gentle smile on her beautiful face. If you just look at the surface, no one would think that this woman would actually. She is the queen of the world's #1 custom street, and a spy for the government's top espionage organization. X23 US. Updates fastest. That's right. Stussy's attitude is really not respectful. She is not young, she is already an old man in CP0, and her status is not under the guy who is talking to her now. And I'm afraid it's not so intimate. Stussy smiled and said, being able to drive the boat directly to the roof of Tesoro, Vlad may have a very close relationship with Tesoro. That's it. The man over there said, if that's the case, then a lot of things make sense. Why Tenryubito speaks for the Fire Dragon is also clear. Oh, that's the reason, the abominable Emperor Going, is he actually allied with the Fire Dragon? The people over there look a little indignant, although they are the government's highest espionage organization. In theory, the administrative level is half a level higher than the Marine headquarters. After all, CP0 is actually a knife in the hands of the government, and Marine still has there as a layer of justice, but even so, many things are beyond their control. Tenryubito will favor the Fire Dragon because of the relationship between Emperor Going, but they have no idea about such things. After all, Tenryubito is the master. Even the organization, the position of the top-ranking officer in the house is only Tenryubito's escort. So what? Stussy smiled. What's next? The Fire Dragon must not be taken lightly. He and Fire Fist are the most suspicious of what happened in Mariajoy that night. Neither Tenryubito nor the government has forgotten about it. The person over there said, but the trouble is, now it seems to be the influence of Emperor Going. Before it is completely determined, the government can't always take positive actions against the Fire Dragon. Aren't all bureaucrats like this? Stussy smiled sarcastically. Even if it is the top intelligence organization in the government's hands, it does not mean that Stussy has no complaints about the leadership. In fact, compared with the more simple and united Marine headquarters, the government itself is much more complicated. After all, it is a big alliance composed of more than 170 countries. All kinds of forces are intertwined, not to mention that although Tenryubito is a collective name, it is not completely united. Each family has its own will. Government is really complicated. Always be careful until the evidence is conclusive. Today is a great opportunity. The person over the phone didn't care about Stussy's rebelliousness, and said casually, because of the existence of the flying pirate ship, we are completely unable to grasp the trace of the Fire Dragon, and it is even more difficult to collect information on him, since they have taken the ship today. Stopping at Garinsalo is a good opportunity to test the Fire Dragon pirates. Hey, do you want me to take action? Stussy said so. No, Now is not the time. The man said, Fire Dragon is not a simple guy. Your status is very good now. I have already called someone over. That's it. Well then, it's getting late, I have to go to bed. Stussy gave a small yawn. Staying up late is a girl's enemy. Girl. The people over there looked funny. It happened 30 years ago, right? Do you want to die? Stussy snapped the phone bug. Then. Da. Stussy walked around a corner leisurely, with a very charming smile on his face. Oh, I was heard. Hiccup tilde good wine. Face swept across Stussy's face with sullen eyes. Where's the wine? Stussy step by step. Hee. Stussy raised his right hand slightly, stretched out his plain white fingers, and tapped, finger pistol. PFF'd. Hey. Invisible fluctuations flashed, and the back of the man's head burst open, and he fell directly to the ground. Come on. With a warm smile on the woman's face, she clapped her hands. I can finally sleep. Dash. The Platinum D-Drake stayed in the center of the entertainment ship, on top of the tall building called the Central Tower. It was very high. As Tessero's address, it was also where he stored his going. The guards here are very strict, and ordinary people think it's not an easy task to break in, let alone rush to the top to inspect the Platinum Drake. However, the idea of this ship is not an ordinary guy. Although there are also a lot of crap spies in CP0, there are also guys with extraordinary strength. As spies lurking in Garansalo, at least the strength of the two people who were ordered to investigate the Platinum D-Drake was not weak. Two men who looked drunk, dressed in colorful clothes, walked to the corner of the central tower with each other's arms. As agents who had undergone strict special training, such a disguise was of course not a difficult thing to do. Let's go. One person said so. Yeah. The other nodded. Whoosh. The two of them jumped up, their bodies were already rising into the sky, their feet stepped on the air from time to time, as if they were stepping on the ground, and their bodies immediately rose a bit. Moon step is of course a must for CP0. In class, there is no reason why the lower-level CP9s are popular as the higher-level CP0s. Although the central tower is very high, it is not a great distance for the two people who can walk in the air. Soon, in the whistling night wind, the two have already flown to the top of the central tower. Is this the only flying pirate ship in the world? One of them said so. The government is very interested in this kind of technology. Another replied. Let's go and see what's hidden in this ship. The one who spoke at first stepped forward. Hurry up, almost all the members of the Fire Dragon Pirates are gone now. Yeah. The other nodded in agreement. Then. Hey, I said. Some lazy man's voice sounded behind the two of them. Two little mice, what do you want to do? This is not a place where others are welcome to visit. It's over. This was the only thought in their minds. Hee. I said, don't you want to do something to Lao Su's boat? Chapter 407 Dark Power. Hey, you're really brave. Vlad flapped his wings and landed gently on the ground, returning to his human form with a playful smile on his lips. Do you actually want to move Lao Su's precious D-Drake? It's troublesome. Two CP agents. There is no doubt about the fighting power of the Fire Dragon Vlad. When they debuted, they defeated the Black Arm Zephyr, and then the Golden Lion. Even not long ago, CP0 also got him and Kaido of the news of the beasts fighting in Wano-kuni. It's not a simple guy who can get out of Kaido's hands. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Of course, the two agents do not think that they have the strength to fight Vlad head-on, although there are strong guys in CP0, and there are even top-level combat power that is not inferior to the Four Emperors Admiral. The monster of Tenryubito's strongest shield exists, but, alas, it has nothing to do with these two poor fieldmen. Did you come back at this time? The two turned their heads and looked at Vlad with some fear in their eyes. Oh, two drunkards. Vlad smiled. Could it be that he was drunk and came here by accident? Hey, Tessero, your vigilance is too slack, isn't it? Vlad said with a fuss. I was actually touched by two drunkards in the lair. I'm dying of laughter. Tessero, who was standing next to Vlad, said coldly Isho, yeah, the vigilance is a little too lax, so that all cats and dogs dare to come to my place to be presumptuous. Woo-ha-ha, hey, I'm so angry. Vlad laughed loudly, two guys over there, Tessero is pissed, get ready to die. This man is scary when he's pissed. Quote. The two agents looked at each other and saw the frustration in each other's eyes at the same time. 2. We're agents of CP0, the highest espionage agency under the world government. Agent number 1 said this, straightforward, without any intention of concealing. The man said everything he had to say, it's not the enemy. Wow, agent. Vlad looked startled, it's actually a CP0 agent. It scared me to death. The faces of agents 1 and 2 sank at the same time. Vlad's reaction made both of them sink at the same time. This guy, I'm afraid he didn't plan to let them go. Who said agents weren't afraid of death? Who doesn't want to live when they can live? It's actually a CP0 agent. Doesn't that mean what the government means? It scared me to death. The expression on Vlad's face suddenly turned cold, and he said, so in order not to be targeted by the government, the only option is to kill you guys. Damn. Agent number 1 cursed secretly. As the result still unavoidable. Agent 2 clenched his fists. Well, just right. Taking a step forward, Vlad raised his right hand and smiled, Tessero, don't shoot, just these two guys can be used for me to try my new power. I'm looking forward to it. As you wish. Tessero took 2 steps back and said coldly, as long as you don't let them live, these nasty bugs are really annoying, no matter how much they are crushed, they will come up on their own. Tessero, the richest man in the world, is plagued by government spies. This is also normal. The sea is not calm, how could the government trust him? Hey, don't worry, no problem. Vlad twisted his neck, made a rattling sound, and smiled, it must have been handled properly. It's completely invisible. Quote. The two agents looked at each other, run away. Scoff. The two of them instantly turned into 2 black shadows, splitting into 2 sides and rushing out in 2 completely different directions. The moon step, which had been engraved into their bones, was used instantly, and the 2 of them rushed into the night sky like 2 big birds. Leaping away. Hey, is this a speed match with me? Vlad smiled. That's a little underestimating me. Brush. The wide wings stretched out from Vlad's back in an instant, and with just a light flap, his body disappeared in place, and he could no longer be found. Wow. A strong wind was instantly generated with Vlad's movement, and Tessero, who was standing behind Vlad, covered his hair unconsciously. Even if Zhu-Rong mode is not used, Vlad's speed has also reached a terrifying level. At least, these 2 CP0 little spies have no way to compare with Vlad's speed. Hey. Don't go, let's play again. Having said that, Vlad has appeared behind Agent 1 like a ghost. Damn. Agent number 1 knew that his speed was far less than that of Vlad, so he had no idea of escaping directly. With a somewhat desperate expression on his face, he turned his head sharply, and punched at Vlad. Rad smashed over. The dark armament hockey was attached to it, and Agent 1 used all his strength. Even if he couldn't win, at least he didn't die worthless. Hey. Vlad stretched out his right hand. His right hand was already pitch black, not hockey, but the ability of the dark fruit. At the moment when the black smoke appeared, Vlad's dragon form had been released, which was really annoying. Crack. Vlad's right hand directly held the fist of Agent number 1, making a dull low sound. What? Agent number 1 was very surprised. He didn't know why Vlad suddenly put away his fire dragon form, and actually showed another more peculiar ability. Hey, it hurts. Vlad frowned, saying this, not joking, he did not use hockey, the ability of the dragon fruit was also bound by the dark ability, and he was purely using to resist the attack of Agent Number 1, although his physique is very strong, but after all, he didn't do any defensive work. Garp the Fist could be punched by the straw hat. It's not surprising that Vlad was beaten. There is also a double the pain attribute. Then, try it out. The black mist was thick and diffused like a liquid. Dark cave. Vlad said so solemnly. Ah! A scream came from the mouth of Agent Number 1, as if he had received some terrible punishment. The dark cave channel used by Teach is a trick that releases darkness from the ground to swallow all the objects on the ground, but now Vlad is at a high altitude, and it is completely impossible to release the darkness to the ground, but who has stipulated that only the ground can it be used as a carrier for dark caves? Vlad directly used his palm and the surrounding air as the ring to release such an attack. It turned out that although the channel was not completely opened, it was actually not bad. Agent Number 1's body shrank visibly, blood spattered little by little, and then disappeared into Vlad's palm in a horrific sound. Well, there's one more. Vlad turned his head. The other agent had run a little far, and it was not impossible to catch up, but he had to transform into a dragon man form. But, fortunately, you don't have to catch up. Vlad's body began to fall down, and at the same time, he raised his right hand, and the amazing darkness was released from his hand. Near Vlad, the entire sky was covered by the darkness in his hand, far away. It looks like a deep dark cloud. Fortunately, it was night and nothing could be seen from a distance. Goodbye. As Vlad said this, he waved his hand sharply, and in the dark moment around him, it surged like a huge wave, rushing towards the second agent who had run a little far away. What? The speed of darkness is much faster than expected, but in the blink of an eye, he has already caught up with Agent Number 2, leaving no time for this man to say his last words, and the rich tide of darkness has completely engulfed him. Chapter 408 3 Men X Night Attack X Old Lady. The black mist generated by the ability of the dark fruit can absorb and compress everything that comes in contact with it. Although it is not a very powerful trick, it is so in terms of fashion value. If it is used in terms of combat, there is absolutely no comparison with Vlad's dragon fruit, but if it is only used to kill small characters like Agent 2, there is no problem. Ah! With a shrill scream, an unknown government agent, even a guy with no description of his appearance, was completely engulfed by the darkness. Hey! Vlad smiled. Not bad, at least it's enough to abuse vegetables. Whoosh! Wow! Vlad looked surprised, and then he remembered that he was in a state of falling rapidly from the air because of the ability to put away the dragon fruit. Wow, how exciting! Vlad smiled like this, watching the lights in the ground getting closer and closer. He could still have a very exciting feeling. Flying in the sky and such a free fall without any protective measures are two completely different feelings. Really good. Ah ha ha ha. There. The flames swept away, and the fiery red scales had covered his body. Vlad once again turned into a fiery red dragon, flapping his wings and soaring into the sky, turning into a meteor in the night sky, moving towards the central tower whistling away. Done. Tessero, who had just lit a cigar and hadn't puffed on it, said this to Vlad, who had already flown back. How fast? Vlad always felt that there was an indescribable sarcasm in Tessero's tone. Vlad. Quick. Vlad raised his eyebrows. Are you talking about me? Who knows? Tessero smiled indifferently. Oh, you guy. Vlad smiled and walked leisurely to the railing and leaned on the railing. What a beating. You can try. Tessero has been brooding over the past, and at least in his home game, he doesn't feel weaker than Vlad. Forget it. Vlad spread his hands. If we really start fighting, the ship will be sunk. Well, I don't care anyway. Huh. Tessero smiled. Of course he knew what the consequences would be if the two really started fighting. He was just joking. He didn't like to joke very much. He only liked to play with others, but, in front of Vlad is the exception. So what is your so-called perfect solution? Tessero asked with interest. Do you really want to see it? Vlad raised his right hand with a smile. Black smoke began to fill his hand, and the second agent, who was directly hit by the black gas, was completely crushed, and the remaining one was torn and swallowed by the dark acupuncture point. It is also possible to release it, but I am afraid that it will destroy the 3 views. Forget it, you can do it if you think it is. Tessero said so. Hey, I knew it. Vlad put his arms around Tessero's shoulders very warmly and smiled, you believe me. Stop being self-righteous. Tessero wrenched Vlad's arm away, bitch. Woo ha ha. By the way, Tessero. The smile on Vlad's face grew even stronger, are you interested in that woman Stussy? Stussy. Tessero's expression suddenly turned serious. Stussy. A beautiful woman indeed, just a little older. Who asked you that? Vlad looked like he hated iron. You guy, can't you have the courage of a New World giant? Then what do you mean? Tessero frowned, are you going to kill her? That's right, she's from CP0 after all. No no no. Vlad looked up at the bright moon above the sky and smiled, of course I didn't mean that. Dash 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 dash. Bright geckos scattered randomly into the room from the window. In the center of the wide room, there was a large river. The beautiful woman stretched her brows, as if she was having a sweet dream. Hey! As if she had a nightmare, the woman's head suddenly began to drip with sweat. Ah! Seemingly frightened, the woman sat up abruptly, with the most horrified expression on her beautiful and moving face. Hey, it's all your fault, Tessero. Then, the woman who was awakened by the nightmare heard such a voice, it looks so scary, it scares others. The woman turned her head in surprise, and then saw 2 men sitting at the table by the window, and another man leaning against the wall. 3 men actually appeared in her room. What nonsense, Vlad. Tessero, who was sitting opposite Vlad, obviously did not accept Vlad's slander. Don't say that she was dreaming just now, just talking about your looks makes you look worse. Star. Hey Tilda, I feel insulted. Vlad looked very excited. Hey, Luo, let's judge, who is uglier, Tessero or me? Quote. With a knife on his shoulders and leaning against the wall, Luo stretched out his hand and pressed it on his hat, unwilling to answer such a mentally handicapped question. What? It was little Vlad. The woman on the boat, the spy of CP0, the queen of Happy Street, the woman named Stussy gently lifted the quilt, not feeling any fear because of the sudden addition of 3 men in the room in the middle of the night, wearing a red dress. The pajamas are a bit large, and her beautiful figure is hidden. The woman sat slantingly on the edge of the bed and said, if you're looking for your sister, you can do it alone. Why do you need to bring 2 people? Forget it. Vlad waved his hand, as if you were too polite, you better ask someone else to be smart. Haha, little Vlad is really interesting. Stussy covered her mouth and smiled tenderly. She deserves to be a woman with dual identities as a CP0 spy and a dark giant in the New World. This part is not surprising, but it is not bad. Well, you're not the first to say that, and you certainly won't be the last to say that. Vlad stood up, twisted his neck, and smiled. Of course, I'm a very interesting person, so, of course, I will only do very interesting things, like, now. Stussy tilted her head, and even her sleepy appearance couldn't diminish her beauty. Hey Tessero, doctor. Vlad said so. Tessero stood up behind him. Luo also turned his head. Let's do it. Mobile users, please browse reading for a better reading experience. Chapter 409 Destroying Flowers. The time is night, late at night, even the most prosperous city in the world like Garinsalo is a little quiet at the moment. The original noise and disturbance finally weakened with the passage of time. X23 US. Com updates fastest. The location is the top room in the top hotel in the city of Garinsalo. In addition to various entertainment industries, the hotel industry is also an indispensable part of the entertainment city. Of course, Tessero understands this. This city has the world's top hotel. The most basic condition for staying in is to be a famous person in the sea, not to mention, if you want to live in the top room of this hotel, what will you do? What harsh conditions. There are 4 people involved, 3 men and 1 woman, 3 strong men and a beautiful woman in pajamas. A fierce hand-to-hand battle has just happened between the 4. It is really exciting to say that. Statement. 3 to 1, 3 men to 1 woman. It was despicable, so to speak, and then, now, the battle is over. Really, little Vlad, to do such a thing to my sister. Stussy clutched her high chest and fell to the ground, her slender white and tender legs exposed from under the nightgown that had been lifted up to her thighs. It was an extremely seductive sight. There is no difference, but in fact this woman's face is full of solemnity. Hee hee. Vlad gently tossed the thing in his hand, smiling like a weasel who stole a chicken. Very proud, Aunt Stussy, you should already know what your situation is now, right? Well, I see, my sister just listens to little Vlad. Stussy looked very submissive, looking up at Vlad, eyes full of admiration-like emotions, eyes that could easily melt the heart of a normal man. However, Vlad does not eat this set. Hey, it's good to know. Vlad clenched what was in his hand, a pink translucent square with a beating heart inside. Needless to say, this is naturally Stussy's heart. Of course it makes sense to bring Luo here. Vlad came late at night, of course not to patronize Stussy's business. After all, there is a high-level CP0 beside him. Of course, he has to make use of it. Oh haha, now you're obedient. Vlad smiled and squeezed the heart in his hand. Me Tilda. Stussy couldn't help frowning, a look of extreme pain on her delicate face. The resistance just now was very fierce. Vlad let go of his right hand and smiled like that. It's all because little Vlad is so rude. Although Stussy has been controlled by Vlad, she still maintains her restraint. Hee hee, isn't it of course? Vlad spread his hands and smiled, if you weren't rude, we wouldn't be able to take you down. Aunt Stussy. It's my sister. Stussy corrected. Stussy's strength is not weak, and she can be a giant of the dark world in the new world. Of course, this woman's strength is certainly not weak. Two-color hockey is proficient, and the fighting technique is not weak. Even if it is not used, it may be Rokushiki, which he is best at, but the melee combat alone is not weak. It was not easy for Vlad to subdue her. Vlad is not good at such live capture. It would be easier if he directly smashed this woman into scum. After all, without exposing the dark fruit now, all Vlad can use is his fire dragon ability, and the destructive power of this ability is really too strong. Who cares about you? Vlad said. Listen, Stussy, from now on, you're Lao Tzu's subordinate. Vlad laughed very evilly. It's no wonder that if someone who doesn't know the truth sees this scene, of course they will subconsciously think that 3 evil forces are bullying a beautiful woman. It's mine too. Tessero on the side interrupted, although he did not reveal the identity of Stussy CP0, but he was still very interested in Stussy, South Happy Street. Tisk, I really don't want to suffer. Vlad casually threw Stussy's heart to Law. Doctor, make a cut, Tessero and I are half of each other. Quote. Stussy raised her head sharply, even she was furious now, but, unfortunately. What, Stussy? Vlad smiled, looked down at Stussy's beautiful eyes, and said, is there any opinion? Of course not. Stussy's face burst into a smile, why would I think so? My sister is very happy. Little Vlad is already an amazing man. Hey, that's good. Vlad smiled, it's really nice of you to think so. You probably wouldn't mind cooperating with me, would you? Stussy nodded and replied, of course, little Vlad has done it to such an extent, of course my sister will help you. Woo-ha-ha-ha, if you are willing to cooperate, that's fine. Vlad took half of the heart from Luo's hand and smiled, with your help, wouldn't it be easier to kill that guy Charlotte Linlin? Really, little Vlad? Stussy stood up from the ground, although she was already in an embarrassing situation of being controlled, but the woman sat back on the bed as if nothing was wrong, and said to Vlad with great interest, "Just like this for Linlin." Hatred. "Oh, don't say you don't know what happened between me and that fat woman." Vlad was very angry. "Yeah, so I can't help it." Stussy looked very sad. After all, it was Linlin who did something wrong. Tisk. Vlad smacking his lips, is this the so-called superficial sister? But it's no wonder, even if you don't count her CP0 status, how virtuous do you want her to be as a professional prostitute? Hee hee, you're happy as long as you're happy. Spread hands. Then, Miss Stussy. After Vlad, Tessero stepped forward with a smile on his face. He still held half of his heart in his hand and squeezed it gently. Stussy's face changed slightly, obviously uncomfortable. "We should talk too." "Oh Tilda." The smile on Stussy's face gradually faded, and her eyes became sharp. "Mr. Tessero, do you have any business you want to discuss?" "Yes." Tessero raised his head and looked down at Stussy. "Of course there is. I'm very interested in your business." Chapter 410 Leaving and Coming. NS-LQ-1D. CISL-09. A K% 0U0 gone. Gurin Tessero. On the top of the central tower, Tessero leaned against the railing, held a cigar in his mouth, and exhaled a small puff of smoke, said so. "Yeah, time waits for no one, why?" Vlad, who was standing beside him, said, "Could it be that you can't bear me? Hey, please forgive me, I'm only interested in beautiful young ladies." Tisk, Stussy like that. Tessero teasing Isho, said so. "Well, although it's a little old, but think about it carefully." Vlad pinched his chin and pondered, "Actually, it's not bad." "Is it?" Although he is a little older, he can't tell from his body or appearance at all. Such a beautiful woman, no matter what you think about it, right? Quote. Tessero looked at Vlad in surprise, then. Ha 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 ha. This unsmiling man suddenly burst into laughter, unrestrained and unrestrained, and there were even tears in the corners of his eyes, which was really incomparable. Vlad, ha ha ha, you bastard, ha ha ha. Tessero laughed, "That's interesting." It's really interesting, even though Vlad said that now, but last night when he attacked Stussy and dug out the woman's heart, Vlad didn't hold back at all, but did his best. Tessero almost suspected that he had some kind of wonderful thing. Hobby. Hey, what are you thinking? Vlad tilted his head and quibbled, "I'm just joking, don't think too much." It's okay. Tessero looked like he was about to laugh, his shoulders were shaking, his face was flushed, and he looked very uncomfortable. "Just be happy, don't you have half of her heart? You can do it anytime." Hee hee, you've changed, Tessero. Vlad looked disappointed. "You're not the Tessero I know anymore." "Really?" Tessero asked rhetorically. "Yes, but..." Vlad laughed, "Not a bad change." "Perhaps." Tessero said so. "So, Tessero," Vlad said solemnly, "no kidding, Stussy has to be careful with this woman." "I know." Tessero put it this way, "If you really think that woman is completely at our mercy to be really stupid, I know very well what these government-raised mice look like. I'm not stupid." "That's good." Vlad nodded and smiled, "It's still very beneficial to keep this woman. At the very least, aren't you earning money in Happy Street? You've made a lot of money." Tessero. "I don't care about this money." Tessero always looks like a local tyrant who doesn't take money as money. Well, what a disgusting rich man's face. Vlad looked like he was about to vomit. "Sorry." Tessero said, "If it is a sin to be rich, then I may be the most sinful person in the world." All right, enough is enough." Vlad waved his hand, "Don't pretend, it's enough. I'll take it. I, Vlad, would like to call you the world's #1 local tyrant." "It's good to know." Tessero smirked, and getting along with Vlad was different from everyone else's. It was a true friendship, and it made Tessero feel good. "So, Tessero." Vlad said, Stussy will be handed over to you, and she deliberately did not identify her CP0 identity just to let her help us honestly, you know. Of course I understand. Tessero nodded. Having her make us a microphone to the government is really helpful, and it will be a good opportunity for her too. Yes, the government is very suspicious of you and me. Isn't this a win-win situation? Vlad grinned. It was a really good idea. Stussy didn't know that her identity had been exposed, so it wasn't a bad thing for her to be controlled by Vlad and Tessero. After all, it was possible to get close to Vlad and Tessero. Tessero, get more information, can do more things, but for Vlad and Tessero, this is even better. A lot of things that can't be said can be conveyed to the government through her. As it should be. Tessero nodded. Okay, Tessero, I have to go. Ddraig, which was still parked on the roof. The next time we meet, it's time for a big wave. Well. Tessero nodded, watching Vlad jump onto the huge ship. I can't wait. Don't worry. The huge pirate ship slowly lifted into the air, and Vlad was lying on the side of the ship, smiling like this, it won't be long. Our plan is almost ready to start, and the necessary conditions have been put together, just wait. As soon as I take the last step, I will be sure of it. Then, hurry up. Tessero exclaimed. Ah-ha-ha-ha. Accompanied by such laughter, the huge pirate ship flew higher and higher, and flew towards an unknown distance. That's right, Vlad. Tessero smiled, what a great boat. Dash 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 dash. Time has passed, and it has been more than half a day since the dragon pirates left Gurin Tessolo. The dim sunlight is like gold sprinkled on the sea. Light. Perhaps because he is a person with the golden fruit ability, at this time, Tessero likes to stand in the window and look at this kind of scenery, but today, he did not do that. Is that what you want to see me? Tessero sat behind the large table, leaning leisurely on the soft back of the chair, holding a cigar in his mouth, and said casually. I am really flattered. Whitebeard Pirates, 2nd Division Captain, Fire Fist Ace. Behind the topless man is an extremely conspicuous symbol, which is the symbol of the strongest man in the world, the symbol of the Blue Sea, the strongest pirate group in the sea. Name is Ace, Portgas D. Ace. The man who carried his mother's love and his father's recognition is now standing in front of Tessero, and there is still a little oil on the corner of his mouth. But even a member of the Whitebeard Pirates, or so. Tessero looked a little surprised. Just because he is a member of the Whitebeard Pirates, he doesn't pay for food. I can't figure it out. Ah-ha-ha-ha. Ace scratched his head and said a little embarrassedly, because I came out in a hurry, I forgot to bring money. Forget it. Tessero smiled, I'm the one who invited you, so, Mr. Ace, what's the matter with you? Hey, what's the matter? Ace pressed the hat on his head and smiled, Mr. Going, can you tell me where the fire dragon is? Well. Tessero was surprised. Did he just leave here? I heard that he and you are good friends. Ace said so. Oh, are you going to make trouble with that guy Vlad? Tessero sat up straight. How dare you say that in front of me knowing that he and I are friends? Hey. Ace smiled and didn't speak, but his face was full of confidence. Well, forget it, it's not something that can't be said. Tessero suddenly issued. It's nothing to tell you. Chapter 411 Tournament. Scoff. The tall man slammed the whip leg and pulled it out, and the air was torn apart with a very harsh sound. Bang. The tall man's opponent, the man with the same stature, raised his left arm, and an invisible wave spread on it. This is the magical power called hockey. Although it can't be hardened yet, just wrapping around is enough to greatly increase the body's defense. Although the whip leg is very powerful, it is not invincible. The heavy bang on hockey's arm does not have much effect. Cut. The man couldn't help but scolded inwardly, even though he knew that the opponent this time was not of the same level as all the previous opponents, but it was really difficult enough to deal with it. Scoff. The long sword in his hand swung violently, and it was very strange. The long sword that was supposed to be hard suddenly changed its shape. It was as soft as a cloud and turned into something like a ribbon. It can be seen that there are dense barbs on the top of the ribbon, and invisible fluctuations spread on it, which is also armament hockey. Take it, Waipa. Like a long sword made of clouds, and actually made of clouds, the long sword was like a whip towards his enemy, Waipa. Naive. The man's name is Waipa, the warrior of Sandia, the current Sky Island God's Guard captain, and the guardian of the God's Island. The incendiary cannon that was originally carried on the back suddenly slipped into the hand, and there was no need to aim at all, and it slammed out with one shot. The blue-white flame produced by the artillery would detonate the built-in natural gas, thus producing amazing destructive power, which could knock the opponent out. Burning directly into pieces was originally Waipa's unique equipment, but now it is the standard equipment of the God's Guard. However, it is natural that popularization does not mean that the power will be weakened. The amazing temperature spread in an instant, and the blue-white flames shot out, pointing directly at his opponent's head, even if he was hit by the opponent's attack, as long as he killed the opponent before he was killed by the opponent. Waipa has always been with such a style, he is not afraid of death, and he is undoubtedly the most courageous warrior in the world. Cut. Of course, his opponent was unwilling to exchange his life for Waipa's injury. The moment Waipa lifted the incendiary cannon, his arm was already pumped by Vivi. He had already mastered the ability called Shinwang, and then coupled with the practice of observation hockey, the perception of battle has reached a very sharp point. The cloud sword that was drawn towards Waipa's body like a ribbon instantly retracted and turned into a thick shield to block it. In front of him, needless to say, hockey was already attached to it. Boom! An astonishing explosion sounded suddenly, a huge smoke screen rose into the sky, and two silhouettes shot out instantly, landing on both ends of the field. Trouble, did you stop it? Waipa looks a little unhappy. Iron cloud is a special kind of cloud of Sky Island. It has the hardness of iron and the plasticity of cloud. Difficult to break down. Oh, not bad. Not far away, Vlad was sitting leisurely on a chair, squinting his eyes, holding a cup of chocolate ice cream in his hand, sending spoonfuls to his mouth. These two guys are very strong. Dragon pirates return to Sky Island, and they will not come back. Vlad is very worried about the overall quality of his subordinates. The turbulent waves are coming, not just him and his friends. To become stronger, his subordinates also have to be stronger. Therefore, in order to test the strength of the God's Guard under his command, Vlad held the first God's Guard tournament to evaluate the actual combat strength of this army from all aspects. The team battle has come to an end yesterday. The original Shandia warrior team headed by the team won the first place undisputedly, which is really a violent style of play. Then the personal battle that started yesterday afternoon has reached the final stage. No surprise, the two strongest guys in the God Guard are the two strongest guys in the God Guard, and the only guy in the God Guard who has awakened armament hockey. Compared to the guys who haven't awakened armament hockey, these two guys are like wearing a solid armor and can't fight at all. The two people are the original Shandia warriors, the current God's Guard commander, Waipa, and the strongest of the original four priests under Enel, the air animal herdsman, the man in charge of the Iron Trial, and the current God's Guard deputy. The commander of the gods, Om, the strength of these two guys is second to none in the Guard of the gods. It can be said that they stand out from the crowd. Well, that's right. Sitting next to Vlad, the chef agreed, these two people are considered the strongest in the entire God's Guard. After all, they not only have stronger bodies, there are others who don't have armament hockey. Observation hockey is also similar. Not to mention, these two have a fighting will far beyond ordinary people. Each of them is a very good guy. Let's be so. A spoon in his mouth, Vlad said casually, it's not bad. There are probably 3 or 4 billion pirates on the Blue Sea. It's no problem to be a supernova. Strictly, Captain. The chef smiled. Yaha tilde I'm so greedy, Captain, it's enough. Enel, who was squatting on a chair like a monkey, smiled and said, I didn't expect them to go to war with us. As long as we can defend this island of gods, it's not enough. Is it? Well, Vlad replied, I'm not allowed to dream a little bit. What kind of ideal? Enel teased, does everyone in the God's Guard have Shichibukai-level combat power? Such a dream. Whoosh. Flew straight towards Enel's face. Crack. Enel in the form of Thunderbolt didn't move at all. The cup had already passed through his body and fell to the ground and shattered. Yeah, haha. The captain got angry and walked away. Crack. Blue lightning pierced through the sky, and Enel had disappeared in place. What a nasty guy. Vlad said, it's getting more and more annoying. Haha. The chef looked very happy. On the other hand, the battle is almost over. After a round of fierce fighting, both of them had a lot of scars on their bodies, and Armament Hockey, who was not so skilled, had already been exhausted, but the battle was finally over. Hey! The long sword cut through the sky and slashed directly towards Weipa's body. Hey! Without evading, the man named Weipa directly held Ohm's long sword with his left hand, and finally squeezed out the only remaining hockey, but the blood still gushed out. I won this time. Ohm laughed so much, the long sword held by Weipa began to change suddenly, and the position of the top had turned into a thorn, and stabbed directly at Weipa's chest. Fool! Weipa smiled mockingly, his right hand on Ohm's chest. Breakout. Chapter 412 Award. PFF'd. As soft as a cloud, but as strong as steel, the spikes of the Iron Cloud sword have pierced into Weipa's chest, and it only takes a little force to penetrate his body completely. This was not a difficult thing for Ohm, but he couldn't do such a simple thing. X23 US. Com updates fastest. As I said earlier, Weipa is a man who is not afraid of death, so even in the discussion with his colleagues, this man is also ruthless, not only ruthless to his opponent, but also ruthless to himself. This man is truly a natural warrior. Even if his chest is penetrated, he can't be shaken in the slightest, and his palms are violently forceful. Boom! A strong shock wave spewed out from Weipa's hand, and the amazing force instantly applied to Ohm's chest. Weipa's right hand was wrapped in a bandage, not because he was injured, but because there was a shell under the bandage. As a cherished shellfish that has been almost extinct on Sky Island for a long time, the platoon shell has an extremely amazing terrifying power. The shellfish that can absorb the shock and store it has an extremely strong explosive power. The invisible shock wave bombarded Ohm's chest instantly. Ah! It was a very painful cry. The shock wave of the repulsion shell does not only act on the surface of the body, it is an invisible impact that can penetrate deep into the human body. The damage to the human body is definitely not as weak as it looks on the surface, just like Rob Lucci of CP9, the Six Kings spear he used was just such an attack. The invisible shock wave directly attacked the internal organs of the human body, and the damage caused was truly astonishing. Touch. Ohm flew out far away, fell slumped to the ground, rolled around a few times, blood dripping from his mouth. His injuries were not light. The invisible impact from the internal organs, without Armament Hockey's protection if he wants to fight against him with his body alone, he can't do such a thing, because he is already exhausted and unable to fight anymore. Hoo-hoo. Weipa, who was on the spot, had a smile on his face. This was a proud smile that belonged to a winner. He deserved it, because he was a winner. Even if there was a small hole in his chest, it was faintly possible seeing the wriggling internal organs. Even if the body can no longer stand up and swaying, it seems that it will fall to the ground at any time. Even if some bright red blood seeps out from the top of the right arm, the repulsion shell just now brought him a lot of trouble. Weak damage. But even so, Weipa, the man, is unquestionable as a winner. Yuck. A large mouthful of blood spurted out, and fragments of internal organs could be clearly seen inside. Ohm was lying on the ground and had no strength to get up. Weipa, you are a lunatic. Has your arm broken? Oh, just because you think so, so. Weipa actually laughed. This ghostly man could actually laugh, and the target was an enemy who had been beaten to death in the past. It was really unimaginable. He took out a small bottle from his pocket, took out 2 gummies from it, put one in his mouth, and threw the other directly into Ohm's mouth. The one lying on the ground will be you. Ha 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 ha, that's right. Ohm swallowed the jelly, then began to laugh, very wildly. That's right, that's why I've never been able to beat you. You guy, you're really amazing. A very miraculous thing happened. The injuries on the two people began to improve rapidly. The hole in Weipa's chest actually gradually became smaller and began to heal quickly. Things, like incendiary guns, are standard equipment of the Divine Soldier team. HMPH, what is this? Weipa turned his head to look at Vlad, who was walking slowly towards him, and said, in order to protect this place and the people here, I have to become stronger. That's why I said. Ohm shook his head and sighed, I can't beat you. Woo ha 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 ha. Congrats, Commander of the Divine Soldier, you have indeed won the victory. Vlad clapped his hands and walked to Weipa's side, and said, what a wonderful battle. The combat effectiveness of these two people is undoubtedly strong, and it can be regarded as a great combat effectiveness in the first half of the Great Route. It is indeed a good battle for Vlad, so Vlad is very happy. Because he knows that this is not the most real combat power of these two people. The Divine Soldier team is equipped with the enhanced gummies developed by Mr. Paso. Because of its amazing strength, it was banned by Vlad in this competition. Use it, otherwise, you can see what happened to Weipa and Ohm now. Even if the two guys are in normal state, they have already played like this. If they really go all out, they will definitely die. If you really count the effect of fudge, then it is actually equivalent to adding a zone devil fruit to these two guys, or the kind that is strengthened in all aspects, and the strength must be doubled at least, even if it is in the new world. You can also mix up the level. Okay, Captain God. Vlad smiled, the strength has improved very quickly, and the combat strength in the past has changed as much as the world has turned upside down. Lord Vlad. Weipa Vivi bowed his head and said, but that's not enough. Hee hee. Vlad rubbed his nose and smiled. I knew you would say that, so I specially prepared a prize for the winner of this competition. Prize? Weipa blinked, a little surprised. That's right, the prize. Vlad nodded, great prizes that make you stronger. Is that so? Weipa smiled, then I'm looking forward to it. Vlad is undoubtedly a benefactor to Weipa, helping the Sandora people to take back their homeland. Although nominally they are asked to guard the going bell for themselves, in fact, it is equivalent to returning the going bell to them. So Weipa obeys Vlad's command, respects him from the bottom of his heart, supports him, is willing to fight for him, and is willing to be his subordinate, so of course Vlad is also willing to reward him. Hey, it will definitely surprise you and then be very satisfied. Vlad said. So, do you want to eat it yourself? Or do you want to try the latest in Sky Island technology and give your favorite weapon a try? Chapter 413 Omnic Rise. Vlad's reward for Weipa is of course devil fruits. When Bonnie Tessero left, Vlad bought a few devil fruits from his good friend. How about a little more fruit reserve? There is no limit to Vlad's desire to become stronger. Whether it is himself or his subordinate partners, Vlad originally planned to turn all of his partners into multi-fruit ability people, not to mention him. At least they also need a devil fruit equipment, but unfortunately, no one wants to. Enel also believes that his own fruit is strong enough. There is no need to do some miscellaneous things, it is enough to concentrate on his own fruit ability. Vlad is speechless, it is true, just take himself. Said, the enemy who can't handle the dragon fruit, do you still expect the secret fruit to handle it? Just kidding. The lecherous warrior and Paso refused without hesitation. Sakata had a very good reason. He is a pure swordsman and is only interested in swords. Compared with devil fruit, Vlad wants at least Moria the relics of Wanokuni's dragon-slaying sword and dragon horse, Wanokuni's famous sword, and Chu Shui, one of the 21 big quick swords, made him more interested. Paso's reason is even simpler. This guy said that he is only a civilian, and he will never go to the battlefield. If he gets it, it is better to give it to those who need it more. Vlad also has nothing to say. Do scientists charge? Wouldn't it be a waste of resources? The remaining chefs, Luo, musicians and bears did not refuse an additional enchanted weapon, but, the trouble is, the devil fruits that Vlad bought didn't quite match their intentions. It's a very simple reason: to equip everyone must want good equipment. Who wants a whiteboard all-in-one? So Vlad is very disappointed. A group of guys with no eyesight. Don't ask him to actually make legendary equipment in the future. Fortunately, Weipa is not a picky person. As long as it is something that can make him stronger, he will not resist. So when Vlad said that he would reward him with a devil fruit, the man naturally agreed. Because he was unwilling to be restrained, Weipa did not choose to eat the devil fruit himself, but chose to let his weapon act as an intermediary, so Weipa obtained a piece of blue equipment. After the tournament was settled, Vlad began to work on the second thing, constantly making the cards in his hand bigger and bigger, which has always been the first priority in Vlad's heart. Sky Island he rules already possesses a considerable strength. The God's Guard, which has a total of 3,000 people, is equipped with Sky Island's shellfish and enhanced gummies made by Paso. The power of a great nation. But Vlad was not satisfied, so as soon as he returned to Sky Island, the second unit had already begun to form. The back of the shrine has been covered by a huge dome. Teams of powerful soldiers are both builders and guards. This is a forbidden area that outsiders are not allowed to step into. Of course, the so-called forbidden area will not ban Vlad. Vlad is now under this white dome building, with a lollipop in his mouth, squatting on the steps and watching one by one from in front of him. The robot that passed in front of him looked very happy when he saw the expression on his face. That's right, Captain. Enel, who rarely wore clothes once, came over, wearing a white coat, and deliberately cut 2 holes at the back so that the going drums behind him could be exposed. These guys. Well. Vlad nodded and agreed. Okay, God, the establishment of the production line is still very smooth. You guy, finally didn't let me down. Oh. Enel smiled disdainfully. This is just something that can be done easily. How dare you say it? Vlad smiled teasingly. Who was that person who was in a hurry to analyze the core of the dragon-tooth soldiers not long ago? Yeah, haha, but the undeniable thing is. Enel was not ashamed at all, but smiled proudly. I did succeed. I successfully analyzed the mechanical core and built the production line on the drawing. There is nothing else in the building where the 2 of them are, but the production line that Enel is presiding over, the production line for the production of dragon-tooth soldiers. Although it is only a semi-finished product, the basic functions are already complete. Already have the ability to create dragon-tooth soldiers. Ah, you bastard. Vlad smiled, stood up, stretched his waist, twisted his neck, and made a karaoke sound. It's so shameless, I can't forget those days when you were ashamed every day. Look. Forget it, it's good to succeed. Vlad's words changed and he said, God, what is the intelligence of the newly created dragon-tooth soldier? Intelligent. Enel said casually, like when he first discovered it on the moon, to the point where he can understand simple commands. He should be very qualified as an assault fighter. Not enough, God. Vlad said, it's not smart enough. Upgrade it. What? Enel looked surprised. Captain, aren't you trying to suppress the intelligence of these robots? No need to escalate to a very high level. Vlad said, after all, these robots have limited combat effectiveness, that is, they are used as cannon fodder, so let's give them a new job, make them smarter, to the point where they can be used as patrol soldiers. It would be a waste to use the God's Guard as a garrison. They should be used as full-time combatants. Paso's enhanced gummies can give them power similar to those of ability, which is equivalent to 3. There are thousands of zone-capable users, and it would be too wasteful to use them for patrolling. That's it. Enel nodded. Understood. Just upgrade the dragon-tooth soldier to be able to easily identify the enemy and me, patrol and guard. Don't you need to have the ability of self-thinking? Enough. Vlad nodded. But, Captain. Enel laughed, a little jokingly. The trouble is, we're running out of resources. What? Vlad frowned. Captain, don't you think a production line is enough to make a robot? Enel smiled and said, our production resources are insufficient, especially iron, which has been exhausted. Should we go further up the blue sea? That's it. Vlad frowned. He almost forgot about this. After all, this is not what he is doing. Of course, he does not know the details of the production process just by looking at the results. No, now we are going to carry out large-scale production. It is no longer feasible to transport resources to the Blue Sea through the Platinum D-Drag, as in the past, and there is absolutely no sufficient supply. Yeah, haha, that would be troublesome. Enel spread his hands. I can't do anything without enough production resources. Otherwise. Are we moving the production base to Blue Sea? No. Vlad suddenly issued, no. Really, I was bound by my consistent thinking. What? Enel was a little confused. Think, God, where are we? Sky Island. Vlad said, Sky Island has no iron, no soil, and nothing, so what is the civilization of Sky Island built on? Enel's eyes lit up. Yeah, haha. Captain, you're a genius. Yes, if you don't have iron, you can use clouds. Sky Island has a variety of island clouds. At least iron clouds are no different from ordinary iron. The missing resources only need to be replaced by the corresponding clouds on Sky Island. Enough. Chapter 414 Experiment. Hey, why doesn't it eat? Vlad shrunk behind a pillar, sticking out his head cautiously, baring his teeth in a tangled state. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Not far away, a big white dog hesitantly circled a cherry pie, a little eager to try but a little timid. What's the matter? Vlad bit his fingernails and looked confused. Why don't you eat it? Why eat it? So why should it be eaten? There is a man behind Vlad, who is so slandered. The man's name is Sakata. Vladra asked him to do him a favor. This time should have been the time for him to maintain the two famous knives in his hand. Then, when practicing swordsmanship, as a first-class swordsman, you cannot relax at any time. Cultivation is like sailing against the current. If you relax a little, you can only be surpassed by others. I thought there was something amazing, but I just came to watch you feed the dog. Sure enough, this uncle should not have any expectations of you. Samurai Sakata, as always, is full of inner drama. That, Captain. Behind Sakata, there is another guy, the most inexistent character in the Fire Dragon Pirates, and the guy who is often forgotten by the author himself finally has the opportunity to appear. A tall white bear standing upright, wearing an orange overalls, looked a little cautious, and said in a low voice, could it be because it doesn't like sweets? Huh. Vlad turned his head angrily and said angrily, how is it possible? How can there be a guy who doesn't like sweets? Impossible. Human beings, no, creatures like sweet tastes, it's not natural law. You tilde. The fluffy and furry white creature shrunk into the corner of the wall instantly, poking the ground with a low expression. I'm sorry, Captain, please forgive me. Where is this nature? What is it that nature has such a magical law? Is it the sweet universe sweet star? That magical planet made up of desserts? If there is such a planet, you would give up your dream of One Piece King of Pirates right away. Star Thief King, are you ready? Besides, that dog is not a creature of nature, is it? Essentially just a robot, right? How on earth did you decide it would eat? Sakata held two swords in his arms, Juyuan and Chushui, staring at the dead fish, thinking like this. Also, how vulnerable are you? Banshan's eyes twitched, and he glanced at the big white bear shrunk in circles in the corner of the wall. He looked helpless. It was obviously a big bear. Why so fragile? Ow! The fluffy white ears moved, and the confused big dog turned his head. Of course, the movement here caught the big dog's attention. Well. Vlad turned his head. One man and one dog looked at each other silently. Ah, it was discovered. Vlad looked a little exasperated. Ow! Howling almost in horror, the big dog ran away the moment he saw Vlad. It would never forget what happened on the Platinum Drag. For Vlad, it was like seeing a demon, and the blood in the whole body would freeze at that moment, of course, if it had blood. Run away. Vlad was a little stunned. Run away. Quick, samurai, there. Vlad shot out an arrow. Stop it. Since the bait plan doesn't work, let's go straight to it. I'll do this experiment today. Big dog, don't try to run. Alas. With a sigh, Sakata exerted force on his feet, and his whole body flashed like a phantom. Although it was a ridiculous order, although he thought it was ridiculous, the captain's order was absolute, and it was the crew's duty to obey the captain's order. You Tilda. White Bear Babo raised his head with tears in his eyes, tilted his head and thought, thinking that maybe now is not the time for him to be depressed, and the captain needs his help. Thinking of this, the flame in his heart ignited instantly, as if he had been injected with excitatory hormones. He was obviously a bear, but at this moment he rushed out like a big cat. Although Vlad's two subordinates are very active, in fact, they are not helpful at all. Although the big dog named Xiaobai by Serena is actually a dog in the form of a direwolf, he has a sense of smell, hearing, and agility that are far superior to those of ordinary canines, but in the face of a guy like Vlad, there is really nothing to struggle. Without running a few steps at all, the big dog was in despair and fell to the ground by Vlad's head. Woo! Weeping weakly, Big Dog understood that something unfortunate was about to happen again. Hey, bastard! Vlad sneered, you don't eat a toast or a fine drink. You won't cherish the good things that I kindly prepared for you, and it's what you want now, right? You must like the violent feeding. Woo! It was obviously just a big mechanical dog, but now there were tears. The white wolf lying on the ground, once again, lost its dignity as a predator. Come on, there, break his mouth open for me. Vlad turned his head and said so. Beppo was a little dumbfounded. He turned his head to look at Vlad, and some turned to look at the white wolf with a very sad expression. He blinked, and stepped forward decisively to help Vlad open the mouth of the white wolf. Although his mind is very fragile, he will suffer real damage from critical strikes if he is not careful, but in fact Beppo's power is still very large. As a bear fur family, his power is far beyond that of normal humans. Ow Tilda. With a very sad howl, the white wolf's mouth was forcibly opened by Babo. Hee hee. Vlad smiled and took out a small bottle from his pocket and poured a fudge from it, then try it out. Will there be any conflict? Woo. Under the desperate eyes of the white wolf, Vlad shoved the gummy candy into its mouth. Vlad is very interested in Passo's gummy. This ability is like the ability of a devil fruit. It is really amazing. Of course, Vlad also wants to try this ability. However, he has some afraid, what if this thing conflicts with the devil fruit? After all, the reaction after eating the gummies is really similar to zone devil fruits. Therefore, Vlad naturally came up with the idea of the big white dog that Serena kept. Although this guy is essentially a robot, after eating the devil fruit, he is no different from a normal wolf. Different. Chapter 415 Invincible. Woo. The big dog, whose face was covered in tears, lay on the ground weakly and whimpered. It looked like he had been humiliated and saw through the red dust. It was really a joy. Ow. Then, a very miraculous thing happened to this dog. Just when the big dog was looking around at a loss, two small horns began to grow on its head. It is really a very strange scene. It is obviously a robot that has eaten a direwolf fruit. It is essentially an inanimate object, but now it has really grown horns. It's also peculiar enough. Ow. Even if the big dog is slow, he has noticed his own changes. The strength of his body has been greatly strengthened. His muscles seem to have increased by several 100 kilograms in an instant. Under the white fur, there is a thick black layer. Skin, it is no longer the big white dog who was bullied before. So, the big white dog who felt that he could turn over and be the master decisively wanted to turn over and have a good fight with the guy behind him who pressed his head to suppress him. You Tilda. Sure enough, it is an illusion that the power has increased. He is still just the puppy who was bullied. The power of the guy behind him is amazing, and he cannot shake it at all. Ow! Suddenly, the hand on his head was released, and the force that pressed him fiercely to the ground disappeared instantly. Could it be that the struggle just now worked? Isn't that guy in the back invincible? Ouch! You are finished, idiot. Master White Wolf is going to take his revenge today. The White Wolf stood up, turned his head and rushed towards the man behind him. All the sad memories of the past began to recall in his mind at the same time. He didn't provoke anyone, he just wanted to find something to eat. This guy turned to an all-white place, was cut into pieces by a guy in a hat and a knife, was watched by another guy over and over, and was caught stuffing something strange into his body. Then today, I force-feed myself some strange things, but I didn't expect it, bastard. It's this thing that makes the White Wolf stand up. The White Wolf, who was fighting for freedom and the pain of the past, bravely pounced on the enemy in his heart. Touch. Vlad didn't care at all. Even the dog shoveler would be at risk of being bitten when feeding. It's normal for a nine-knife animal breeder like him to be attacked by animals. He doesn't afraid. After all, the biggest difference between him and those animal breeders is that he can fight. He punched the big dog in the face casually, and the big white dog, who yearned for freedom and equality, flew out instantly, and stuck to the wall with a bang, and couldn't fall off for a long time. It is a pity that the road of resistance of Uncle White Wolf has just ended. Well, it seems to be going well, doesn't it? Vlad squeezed it, and said, there is no rejection at all, that is to say, it is actually successful, right? Indeed, what Vlad was worried about did not happen. Although the main body is a robot, in the form of a direwolf, this big white dog is no different from a real creature. There are still some differences. After all, it is also capable. Since it is an ability person, there is no conflict with the enhanced gummy, which means that the ability person does not conflict with this gene drug, which is really good news. But why are you disappointed? Vlad suddenly said to himself, I finally thought I had touched the edge of the devil fruit, but now it seems to be very far off. Vlad has always believed that the technology of the bloodline factor must be an important condition for the production of devil fruit, so Passo's fortified gummy can be regarded as an incomplete devil fruit in a sense, but now it is found that there is no conflict between the two. It doesn't matter for two reasons. One is that the gummy can't reach the level that can make the devil fruit reject at all, because the power of the gummy is too weak, and the second, it may also be because the gummy and the devil fruit are two different things. A completely different direction. Vlad wasn't sure what the real reason was, and he didn't bother to think about it. It was Mr. Passo's business, not his. Hey, since those who have proved their ability will not reject this thing. Vlad was holding a gummy candy on his mobile phone, looking very proud. That old man is invincible in the world. Vlad swallowed the gummy in his hand, and he also wanted to try this magical ability. He already has the powerful ability of dragon fruit. What kind of level can Vlad achieve if he adds the enhancement of Gene Gummy? Don't underestimate Gene Gummy. A body like Paso is not strong. That is, a guy in the category of ordinary people can be strengthened enough to be called a monster, and the gap is at least dozens of times. But, well, after waiting for a long time, Vlad found that he had not changed much, not to mention the horns on his head, the claws on his hands, or even the feeling of increasing his strength. Fuck it. What's the matter? Vlad looks confused. What's going on? Did you eat less? Vlad muttered to himself like this, and threw 5 more gummies into his mouth, waiting for another while. Hey, what the hell is going on here? Just like before, even if I swallowed a few more gummies, I didn't change much, and I couldn't feel the meaning of strength getting stronger at all. Yep. Vlad felt it carefully, only to realize that his power had actually been enhanced. I'll go, what's the use of such enhancements? Vlad couldn't help laughing and laughing. The strength has indeed increased, probably by about 1%. What is the use of this Nima? Eating 6 strength gummies results in a 1% increase in strength. If you want to double your strength, don't you have to eat 600 gummies at once? Yep, it doesn't seem to be that bad. But this is just to think about. Can you eat more of this kind of temporary genetic modification? Well, what if that's the case? Vlad took out another fondant and stuffed it into his mouth. Unlike before, this fondant was not a power fondant. Try it. Vlad raised his finger, the pitch-black hockey attached to his finger, then stretched out his left hand and swiped his finger lightly. PFF'd. Without using any defense, a large hole appeared on Vlad's left arm instantly. Captain. Beppo in the back was a little worried. Vlad waved his hand. It's okay. Just as Vlad himself said, it's totally fine. Something amazing happened right under Vlad's nose. The wound that was spewing blood healed visibly to the naked eye. Under Vlad's excited eyes, the wound on his arm soon recovered completely. Woo ha 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 ha. Vlad laughed loudly. Although it's not as good as Paso, it's enough. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm already invincible. Chapter 416 Moon Lion. Of course, although the mouth is saying that there is nothing to be afraid of, but in fact, there are still many things to be afraid of, and Vlad still has a long, long way to go before he is invincible. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Vlad is very strong. There is no doubt that he is strong. 99% of the people in this world will only be killed by one blow in the face of him. Among the remaining 1%, there are 9%. 19 people will be instantly killed by him with 2 hits. If you want to fight Vlad, you must at least be a Shichibukai-level powerhouse, but this is just a trick, which can make Vlad really fight for life and death. Now, there are only 4 Emperor's Admiral-level monsters. Even in the face of the most powerful monsters in the world, Vlad is not afraid at all. Zhu Rong has provided him with the same strength and destructive power as those monsters, and even better speed and swiftness. Tai in the middle will give him a strong defense, even if it is not as good as Charlotte Linlin's steel balloon. I will definitely not be inferior to Kaido's Warcraft constitution. And now, the fudge made by Paso will bring him amazing resilience, even if it is far less than Kaido's immortality, but it has far exceeded the imagination of ordinary people. It can be said that now Vlad, as long as Zhu Rong is turned on, is impeccable. Well, the next step is to wake up, right? Vlad looked a little tangled. This is really difficult to deal with. I'm afraid it won't be possible to fight without a hard fight, right? Although this attempt has proved that only recovery gummies are useful to Vlad himself, and nothing else, but this is enough. Vlad does not have much demand for attack power, destructive power. He's already at the top of the world, and recovery gummies are clearly more useful. As for why the power gummy couldn't take effect, Vlad had a guess. Maybe it was because he himself had stronger genes. It doesn't work because he is very strong and doesn't need such reinforcement at all. The scientifically illiterate Vlad was somewhat smug. Yeah, I almost forgot. Vlad slapped his forehead and turned around and said, Bear, come and try it. Quote question mark. The big white bear had a cute look on his face, and tilted his head slightly. What? Captain, what should I try? This thing. Vlad took out a second bottle from his pocket, which also contained some gummies, but not the ones that Vlad had eaten before, but white gummies with a Q version bear's head. Come and try it, specially made for you by Mr. Paso. Special edition, gummy bears. Vlad looked very proud, as if he was proud of Paso's work, and threw the bottle of his cell phone to Beppo with a smile. Gummy bears. Beppo tilted his head, looking very ignorant. Do you want to do some inexplicable experiment? The samurai Sakata Vivi, who put the knife back in his waist, took 2 steps back, a pair of dead fish eyes on his face. Obviously you don't know anything about scientific experiments, right? But the teacher likes to do some inexplicable experiments. Okay, come on, bear. Vlad looked enthusiastic. Let's eat it. It will be very interesting, if you eat it. If the captain wishes. Beppo swallowed, and the furry bear paw opened the bottle cap and poured out a fudge with a rich honey scent. Hey, how's it going? Vlad looked complacent. I specially asked Paso to make this taste like honey. Why do you think all bears like to eat honey? Or simply think that all bears have a sweet tooth? Sakata's face was stern, but waves were already surging in his chest. Beppo is a white bear, okay. If you can really choose the taste, make sure that the perverted scientist makes it taste like a seal. Beppo always obeyed his captain's orders, so, naturally, under Vlad's expectant gaze, Beppo put the gummy candy in his mouth and chewed it lightly. Well. Beppo's furry bear's face was suddenly a little surprised, and then a look of enjoyment appeared on his face. His small eyes were narrowed together, and he seemed to be intoxicated. It's so sweet. The bear said so. Hey, isn't it a good white bear? Why are you instantly conquered by the sweet taste? Sakata stared at him, very speechless. Sure enough, I shouldn't expect anything from you. As a white bear, was he captured like this? Are sweets that good? Sure enough, as long as it's a bear, it can't be separated from the setting of liking honey. Hey. When Sakata was in a lot of thoughts, what happened to Beppo finally started to happen. Ah! Suddenly, he shouted very loudly. Unlike all the people who had used fortified gummies before, everyone else, including Vlad, was very relaxed and at ease, as if there was no change, it had already taken effect, but, Beppo's current situation is very wrong. Captain, There was a long howl from Beppo's mouth. It didn't seem to be a scream, but a cry that was very enjoyable. It was like being bound by someone for a long time and suddenly liberated. So strange, so strange. Beppo shouted so loudly, without the slightest shyness before, and then, his body suddenly began to rise. Even if the tall body was raised again, the clothes on his body could not support such growth and were torn apart. The bear's paw, which was originally like a hand, also began to grow, and the claws protruded suddenly, flashing cold light, sharp and curved, just looking at it would feel penetrating. Similarly, the teeth in the mouth also grew rapidly, and the nose and mouth were located. An area started to bulge forward, and the fur on the body began to grow, and soon changed from a big white bear like a human to a huge bear. What an astonishing change. What the hell is this? I was so surprised that even a man like Sakata who didn't like to talk voluntarily opened his mouth, looking extremely surprised, such a gesture. Oh. Vlad looked in amazement at the already majestic bear that looked like a hill. He looked very surprised. It's amazing. This change, hey, is amazing. Is this the moon lion? Vlad yelled. No. Then he denied himself immediately. No. If you really want to give a name to this bear, it should be called, too. Wild ****it. Chapter 418 Carmenio. It hurts. The white bear rolled on the ground clutching his stomach, tears like two noodles hanging from the corners of his eyes. Is this restored? Vlad looked dissatisfied. Is it over so soon? Is the medicine not enough? I'm sorry, Beppo. Slowly put the two knives in his hands back to his waist. Paso's face was very apologetic. You bastard, I couldn't hold back just now. The giant Beppo and the current Beppo are completely two extremes. The giant bear is fierce, wild, full of wildness, and has a powerful strength that can match his size and temper. Sakata didn't keep his hands much before, although he didn't use a blade, but the two heavy swords slashed on Beppo's stomach actually only gave this guy a stomachache. The strengthening effect of this is already amazing. Hey, bear, how did you feel? Vlad squatted in front of Beppo and asked curiously, is there anything special? Dirty Tilda. With a whimper, Beppo said, it feels so strange, I can't calm down all of a sudden. My mind suddenly becomes a little fuzzy, it becomes a little difficult to think about things, I don't know why there is always an angry thought, let it out. That's it. Vlad nodded with some understanding. It's not difficult to understand, because the structure of the genes belonging to bears and humans in the body is adjusted, so it will lead to the transformation of the body shape to the appearance of the real bear, and it will also make your wildness begin. Are you awake? Quote. Beppo was dumbfounded. Is it controllable? Vlad asked, although it is indeed full of wildness, but bear, can you control yourself? Well. Beppo thought for a while, and nodded resolutely, I will try my best to control myself, as long as I don't get angry, I can control it. Perfect. Vlad stretched out his hand and patted Beppo's head. The fur was very soft and felt very comfortable. Although it didn't achieve the original purpose, it doesn't seem to look bad, right? It's great. Oh, Beppo. Beppo looked dumbfounded, and then the two small eyes like beans suddenly began to widen, as if a light was evaporating inside. Superb. Are you talking about me? Of course, asshole. Vlad stood up, stretched, grinned, and smiled. It's always been super. It's just that today was a special super. Woo. Very exaggerated. The white bear suddenly burst into tears, and the soft white hair on his face was wet with tears. As I said before, Beppo is the most inexistent guy in the Dragon Pirates, not like Enel, the chef and Sakata, who are amazing in combat power, and not like a maid who can help Vlad cook this sea. The band of thieves, who take care of all kinds of things on this island, is even more different from Luo and Paso, who are very important to Vlad. Even a relatively useless musician can give them to him during a banquet. Friends bring great music. Only Beppo, who usually doesn't talk much and has no strong sense of presence, is silently steering the helm on the boat. When he was on Sky Island, he couldn't find anything to do, so he could only wander around. To be honest, Beppo's it's not a good feeling in my heart, it's really a very uncomfortable thing not to be needed by others. Hey, why are you crying? Vlad let out a slow sigh of relief. Stupid bear, what's there to cry about? But. Beppo's two furry bear paws covered his eyes. His voice was very excited. This is the first time the captain has praised me. Really? Vlad raised his head and looked at the clear sky, and laughed softly. That's it. Then cry well, and after crying, give me a good effort, and let me praise you well. Woo. It was a wonderful sight. Behind the tall man stood a man with a smile on his face and two knives in his waist. On the ground, a white bear was crying. Really? Sakata opened his mouth and said, beautiful day. Dash 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 dash. Whoosh. The fiery figure cut through the sky, and Vlad, who had been transformed into a dragon, passed through the sky like a phantom. Well, where is it? Vlad said to himself, where the hell is it? Really, it's so annoying. The most troublesome thing is to find people all over the world. Vlad has left Sky Island. He is looking for someone, not on a whim, but he has been curious about that guy a long time ago. Really a long time ago, just after realizing that he had just arrived in this world. That's the plan. From the very beginning, Vlad had a plan for his own path to becoming stronger, and the dark fruit was the target he wanted to capture from the very beginning, because the dark fruit restrained all devil fruit capable users, and the most powerful thing was, the dark fruit can capture the ability of other fruit power users, which is the ability that Vlad values most. Then, the second target was Teach, for the very simple reason that Vlad wanted to be a dual ability guy, and he wanted to see if there was something wrong with Teach's body. After that, next to this is the guy Vlad is looking for now. It is a man who has the ability that Vlad is very interested in, very interested. That man's ability is one of the second ability options that Vlad planned a long time ago, and it's still in the forefront. It seems to be a very powerful ability. It's so powerful that it's very buggy just to hear it. Ability. Because this man in the previous life has not appeared in the comics and theatrical editions, Vlad is a little unsure whether this guy really exists, and Vlad has obtained the same very powerful dragon fruit. Desires are less ardent. However, the sudden news still surprised Vlad a little. This man really exists. This was confirmed not long ago. It was the guy from Tessero who told him, because Tessero knew that Vlad must be very concerned about these powerful forces. Are interested. Just yesterday, Vlad received news from Tessero again. That guy finally appeared. Vlad is looking for him. He wants to try the ability of the dark fruit to seize the fruit. That guy is not a good person no matter what. Killing him. Vlad does not have the slightest pressure. Of course, he is also against that guy. Ability is interesting. The man's name is Carmenio, a former member of the Whitebeard Pirates, a pirate with a bounty of 300 million. Not a great guy. There are countless guys who are more powerful than him in the ocean, but this guy has an extremely powerful fruit ability. Its name, Copy Fruit, as the name suggests, is the ability to copy a person's appearance and even ability. Chapter 49 Dragon God Swoops. Gidgee gidgee gidgee. Hey, that's all you have. The man laughed so loudly, very proud, very dismissive, a very tall man with pink hair, a messy afro, and a helmet on his head, which is very forgiving. Green, it looks like a metal texture, and a pair of orange goggles is embedded in the helmet, making it impossible to see his eyes. Wearing a very gorgeous coat. It is really very gorgeous, with gradient colors like a rainbow. I am afraid there are few people in the world who can accept such an exaggerated dressing style. The flame-like decoration rose up, and there was no other clothes under the coat. A strong chest was exposed, a black belt was tied around the waist, the same black shoes and a pair of green trousers. The most striking thing is, of course, his tongue, which is very long and does not look like a human tongue at all, or in other words, it has nothing to do with normal humans. If the long tongue hangs down naturally, it may already be able to extend directly to the position of the crotch. It is really a very useful tongue in various senses. Such a tongue and his green helmet make this man look like a human-shaped chameleon, a little disgusting. Gidgee gidgee. Man laughed loudly. This is your power. It's really weak. His name is Carmenio, just as Vlad said, the ability to copy the fruit. The former member of the Whitebeard Pirates joined the pirate group because he had bad intentions, but the conspiracy was turned by the Phoenix. Marco stopped it, then left the Whitebeard Pirates, and has been wandering in paradise, the guy with a bounty of 300 million. The flames, the raging flames were burning behind him. The strong high temperature spread wantonly, and the heated air had formed a strong hot wind, blowing the corners of his clothes. Damn, damn, damn. Opposite the man, a group of pirates were full of despair. The leader was a guy with a big knife in his hand. He looked like a middle-aged man, not a human, but a wild boar standing upright. Some dark skin, the most conspicuous of course is the two fangs on his mouth. He looks extremely mighty, but his eyes are extremely frightened. As a captain of a pirate group who can sail on a great route, he is undoubtedly still there are two brushes, but now, the group he led has finally encountered the most terrifying opponent in his sailing career. You bastard, who the hell are you? The wild boar man with a big knife in his hand looked very angry. Why the hell? Why did you attack us? I don't understand it at all. The boar man has absolutely no idea what it is for. Obviously, he just chose to rest on a deserted island as in the past, but the man who looked like a lizard, like a real chameleon preying, suddenly attacked them without warning. The ship was sunk, the companions were slaughtered, and the man who looked very funny showed a combat power that did not match his appearance at all. The power that he was proud of was meaningless in front of this man. It's just waiting to die. Why? You ask me why? Carmenio looked a little surprised. Do you actually ask me such a simple question? Just like a phantom, Gamenio ejected, and in the blink of an eye he was already bullied in front of the wild boar captain. The extremely tall Gamenio was still able to look down on the sea that had already used the zone pig fruit and wild boar shape. Thief captain. Stupid boy, isn't that obvious? Gamenio stuck out his tongue and licked the boar captain's face. It could be said to be very disgusting. His tone was very frivolous, like a predator playing with his prey. Of course it's because I'm bored. Go to hell. Roaring like this, the wild boar captain held the big knife in both hands, raised it high above his head, the muscles of his arms were raised high, and the majestic force was attached to it, and then slammed down, the huge long knife toward the air. It had already chopped off at Carmenio's head. Gidgee gidgee. You little idiot, haven't you learned enough lessons? Camineo smiled strangely. Without any intention of dodging, he stretched out his right hand towards the big sword that had already chopped down, not feeling any fear at all. Clap. It's not a huge sound. Sure enough. The wild boar captain's face was almost desperate. Is it really useless? Of course it is. Camineo smiled. His hand had completely grasped the boar captain's broadsword, and his hand was covered with a dark armament hockey. Although it was in paradise, although the bounty was only 300 million, it did not mean that Camineo was really only the level of paradise. This man, after all, was once a crew member of the Whitebeard pirates. Little bug. With a wave of Caminio's empty left hand, he slapped the wild boar captain's face with a slap, and the powerful force sent the wild boar male fan flying out almost instantly. How can you resist the predators? Fool! Boom! The wild boar man, who had no resistance, was directly blown away by Camineo and crashed into the flaming ship. Captain! Are you okay, Captain? The pirates under the boar man are very worried. Standing opposite such a monster, if there is no one to protect them from the wind and rain, they will not have the courage to confront Camineo at all. Gidgee gidgee gidgee. You guys, don't be distracted. Camineo laughed hilariously. The enemy is here. Hee hee, let me show you. Fun stuff. Look. Ow. Camineo let out a low roar, and his already extremely tall body was suddenly pulled up again. His skin instantly darkened, his nostrils began to expand, his nose became protruding, and the two fangs at the corners of his mouth stretched out in the blink of an eye. This is. Surprised, almost in disbelief. This is the captain's ability. What the hell is going on here? What the hell did this guy do? It's really an amazing sight. There is absolutely no repetition of devil fruit abilities. This is common sense that everyone knows, but now, such common sense has been broken. Gidgee gidgee gidgee. Boys. Camineo picked up the big knife left by the wild boar man on the ground and smiled. Don't think about these things now. Let's think about how to survive in my hands. Whoosh. PFF'd. With a sharp swing of the long knife, blood splattered everywhere, and the pirates standing in front of Camineo were instantly split in half. Hey, hey, cry, escape. Then. Work hard for me to escape to the end of the world. Then, when Camineo was slaughtering recklessly, such a voice suddenly came from the sky. Dragon God swoops. Heat, extreme heat, above the sky. The sun has fallen. Chapter 420 The Only Life. What? Camineo, who has turned into a human-shaped wild boar, looked up at the sky in surprise. It was not an illusion, but a small sun was really falling from the sky. The very dazzling white gold fireball fell here at an extremely fast speed. What is this? Camineo is no longer in the mood to hunt down those irrelevant pirates. What he is more concerned about now is how to save himself from such an attack from the sky. What's that? Is it the sun? Has the sun set? Far more unbearable than what Camineo was about to come, these pirates were instantly frightened, and this scene was something they had never seen in their entire lives. No, it's not a natural phenomenon. Camineo is different from these idiot pirates. This guy who fled from the New World to Paradise in order to avoid the Whitebeard pirates, has armament hockey. Of course, he also mastered observation hockey. As the fireball approached quickly, his observation hockey had already noticed that the breath of life was hidden in the fireball. It's the enemy. Boom. The fireball didn't give him any extra time to think. It was already bombarding the ground heavily with a long tail flame, and a strong explosion was generated out of thin air. Woo! The strong storm spread with the shock wave, and the terrifying temperature along the river made the surrounding flames more turbulent. Oh, really, I finally found it. Amidst the flames, came the voice of a somewhat lazy young man. Really, I wasted a lot of effort. Cough cough. Some dismal faces climbed up from the ground. With the strong physical fitness that was already excellent and then increased by the wild boar fruit, and the not weak armament hockey cultivation base, Camineo, who had withstood the previous attack, looked around in fear. Look. Although he was slaughtered by him, many of the remaining pirates were completely destroyed. Under the attack just now, these pirates, who were not so strong even in paradise, of course had no reason to withstand it. Who are you? Gamenio squinted his eyes and asked. Me. The smoke gradually dissipated, and the people inside showed their true faces. Compared with ordinary people, they were tall, but in front of Carmenio, they were not enough to look at. He had short black hair and looked very energetic. There was nothing on his upper body. Wearing, with a naked and strong upper body, a pair of loose military trousers on the lower body, and a pair of flip-flops on his feet. Who am I? Naturally, the person who came was not someone else. Of course, it could only be Vlad who had been looking for Gamenio. Although he had information on Tessero, it still took a week to finally find Gamenio. Rad was too lazy to get excited. Well, you don't need to think about this issue, you just need to know. You're finished. Vlad said, that's enough. You guy. Gamenio's eyes widened suddenly, you are. Yeah Tilda, I've been recognized again. There's no chance for me to pretend like this. Vlad scratched his head in confusion. Really, it's not good to be so famous. Vlad the Fire Dragon. Gamenio subconsciously took 2 steps back. Of course he knew the man who suddenly appeared in front of him. After all, Shichibukai was one of the biggest pirates in the world. Crash. What happened? With a very surprised voice, the wild boar man who had been slapped by Gamenio finally escaped from the ruins of the ship. This. The huge and ugly wild boar's head looked around at a loss. All he could see was a piece of ruins. His subordinates had already rushed to the ground, and there were no survivors. This. Did you do it? The boar man raised his head, and then immediately stunned again. What did he see? He saw another humanoid boar. This is clearly his ability. You bastard, what is this? Cut, aren't you dead yet? Gamenio didn't look back at all, sweat dripped from his forehead, and all his attention was focused on Vlad. If I were you, run quickly, wouldn't it be good to live? It's you. The boar man heard Gamenio's voice. Did you do it? You did it all right. Oh, is it your enemy? Vlad nodded and said so. I don't want to take the blame for you. Gamenio wanted to pull the corner of his mouth, but unfortunately, he couldn't do such a thing at all, and Vlad gave him a really strong sense of oppression. Go to hell, asshole. The wild boar man roared like this, and ran towards Carmenio with great strides. There was absolute killing intent in his eyes. Although it was not all to avenge his subordinates, there was also the last element of resistance in despair. But, I have to say, daring to show his minions to the strong who are far above him is already a behavior worthy of encouragement. Brush. However, the difference in strength is not something that anger can make up for. It is just a random wave of the big knife in his hand, and the wild boar man who rushed towards Carmenio has been divided into 2, and he can no longer continue his voyage. After all, although the bounty was only 300 million, but in fact, the real strength of Carmenio had to be at least 500 million, which was not something that a wild boar man could compete with. Oh, it's really neat. Vlad applauded with some admiration, and didn't think that Carmenio had done anything wrong. Guys like Boar Man, every day I don't know how many unknown people die in a corner of the sea. So, Vlad the Fire Dragon, one of the Shichibukai kings. Carmenio did not relax at all, or rather, he was even more tense now, his muscles tensed. What the hell is wrong with me? It's nothing, I'm just interested in you, well, I should say. Vlad replied, I'm interested in your abilities. Quote. Gamenio's face froze suddenly. The other party actually came for his ability. Do you want to include him? Don't get me wrong. Vlad waved his hand. I'm not interested in you at all. I said, I'm only interested in your ability. So, didn't you say it before? You're finished. Quote. Sweat began to fall on Carmenio's head densely. Although everyone will die, it does not mean that everyone can be calm in the face of death. Of course, you still have the only possibility of life, because I'm very interested in your abilities, and I'd love to see what you can achieve, so. Vlad stretched out his left hand and said with a smile, would you like to copy my abilities?